Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Growth Minded Accountant, the podcast for tax and accounting pros who want more than survival. They want their time back, right? So you want a firm that grows, attracts higher value clients, and earns back your time. That's the most important part here. So today's episode is, I'm going to say it, beautiful. And I mean that literally, because we're talking about the one, and I didn't know the one was in the bill name. I don't know if that happened later. I just kept calling it the Big Beautiful, the BBB. But the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, signed into law on July 4th by President Trump. While you were watching fireworks, Washington, D.C. was handing you the perfect excuse to email your clients. Schedule that continuing education course, right? Fill your calendar and create your next revenue stream. So even my own staff, they're going crazy analyzing this whole thing. We've been preparing for this literally for months. I would say 3 months of analyzing what's there. We kind of put it all together in our research material. Of course, these are things that we use to train our AI tool Max and to do our own continuing education. And that feeds basically all of the content creation we do here at CountingWorks Pro. But the bill is quite honestly massive. And unlike previous tax reform, I think it affects almost every client, different income levels, different backgrounds, different demographics. There's sunsetting, there's retroaction, there's some applies now, some applies, 930 with the EV tax credit. So there's a lot of issues here for your clients to kind of digest. So I think it's the perfect opportunity to assist in educating your clients, becoming a thought leader, serving your clients, saving them money, right? So you don't have to explain the entire law. You just need to be able to be I call it a launch pad for what I'm calling the big, beautiful tax planning appointment. So if you're already doing advisory, you're just going to integrate this into your upcoming meetings with clients. But if you're, let's say, have a client base that is kind of below the thresholds for a $1,500 a quarter type of advisory service, this is the appointment for them. So as usual, I'm here with Rebekah Barton, our Chief Visibility Officer. Rebekah, how are you doing today? And are you ready to talk about the big, beautiful tax plan?
I am. I'm doing well. Thank you.
All right. So, what is it and how to price it? So basically, this is not a generic like tax consultation. It is a productized, we're giving it a name. You're actually selling a repeatable, like a process, right? That gets clients in the door and positions you as the person who knows what's going on even before they ask. Now, realize specifically with anything Trump does, politics right now is incredibly divisive. Obviously, mainstream media, whatever your points of view on it, there's biases everywhere. So your clients need that unbiased person, that ally, that partner to really explain and break this down. Because right now, if you're on CNBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, you're going to see, very what would you call it? Tilted versions of everything and breakdowns of everything. And, because all I hear is a narrative, oh, this is for billionaires. This is I saw, what was it, Warren, she was in her car crying, and all it was about billionaires. And I think Bernie was doing the same. And I'm like, have they read the law? That I know they voted no, but I'm like, did they read it? Because there's so much here for what I'm going to call day-to-day taxpayers. So let's talk about it. What can you do in this big, beautiful tax plan? You can do a personalized walkthrough, how it applies to them. So a high-income dual family has different benefits from the new tax law than perhaps someone who's making $70,000 a year and is single. So, there's now ways that they can start manipulating the tax code to actually benefit them that they did not have before. What are some of the strategic opportunities? Child tax credits, different deductions, the SALT increasing to 40,000, but of course it sunsets. Your poor clients are going to be, a lot of them are going to be so excited. I'm like, oh, I finally got almost the SALT back. And then no, it sunsets. QBI, entity structure, there's a lot of things here. Obviously you can sell this as either a quarterly advisory or kind of an implementation of the bill. So you can do the consult or do what I'm calling the simple deliverable, a one-page tax strategy plan that they can act on. So if you're doing the one pager, and that's what we're going to talk about now, it's something like $349 to $499 for W-2 families, right? Something they can digest, but get the value out of it. It's worthwhile for them, and do it multi-year, kind of, show them the benefits over a period of time. Or let's say someone who owns a business, $750 plus. You can test what pricing works for your clients. You obviously can value your time however you want to do it. You can also apply the fee towards their tax prep if you want, or advisory if they close more deals over time. So let's get into it a little bit. How to create content around it, how to, because right now, again, if you're spending as much time as our staff is dissecting this and creating the tax planning strategies and understanding the nuances of the tax code, we have a team doing this using AI to help us, and it is a full-time, midnight, every night for the last week job for our staff. So I'm assuming you're not doing the same thing because you're also doing your day job, right? So Rebekah, let's get into a little bit of kind of like how to use AI to help here. So prompt writing kind of 101. We have a 4-step prompt sequence that we talk about. If you could go over that and the reason I'm starting here before I'm getting into the tax plan, there's a couple things. You're going to use AI to help you write your email offer. You're going to help it create content for different aspects of the big, beautiful bill. So there's a lot of ways. There's no way, unless you have, again, this huge team, you're going to be able to do this on your own. But tools like CountingWorks Pro, we're doing this for our clients already. And Max, our AI assistant, already has been trained on the big, beautiful bill, is already creating incredible blogs, email offers, and things like that. So before we get there, even if you're using ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever your preference is, you need to understand how to write a prompt. So Rebekah, please explain.
All right. So prompt writing does not have to be hard. That's how I want to preface this. You really just need to talk to your AI assistant, whatever one you're using, as if it really is just that, your assistant. You can talk to it like a person. These things are all trained on natural language models. That means they understand human language. You can talk to it just like you would a person, anyone in your office, but think of it like a supercharged employee. So there's a few things you should do particularly with this. Obviously, it needs to have context. Like Lee was saying, this bill affects a lot of people. And if you haven't previously trained your AI on who your target audience is, one of the first things you need to do is let it know who you're targeting with this. Because obviously, like Lee was saying, targeting a high-income, dual-income household that's bringing in $500,000 a year is a lot different than targeting a single earner who's earning, less than 70K, who's earning a lot of money from tips, for example. Maybe they're a waitress, maybe they're doing gig work, something like that could really change the type of messaging that's going to resonate with them. So the first thing you need to do is tell it who you're writing for. Then explain to it exactly what part of the bill you want to focus on. This is a massive bill. It's absolutely huge. I did some research to prepare for this podcast. I've been doing research for other work projects all week. This is so huge. It's absolutely impossible to cover it in a single document, a single email campaign. You're going to want to break this down for people by what actually matters to them. So train your AI on the specific part of the bill you want to talk about. For the sake of an example, let's say you are targeting single income earners who get tips. So you might want to focus on how, up to $25,000 tips are now not taxable. That's a great angle. It's something that affects a lot of people who are not making a ton of money, kind of the everyday layman. So that could be a good angle to go with in your prompt. Hey, AI, I'm wanting to write an email campaign about the new One Big Beautiful Bill tip legislation. I'm targeting people who work in the restaurant industry, the hair industry, someone who gets tips regularly. Let's craft a 3-email sequence that's going to help them understand how tax planning can now benefit them in a way it never did before. Boom, done. There's your prompt for your first 3-email sequence surrounding the big, beautiful bill. Follow language like that that's specific to a portion of the bill and specific to an audience. You should start seeing really good outputs pretty quickly.
So let's talk about that. So that's a perfect example. So we're going after an audience that receives income through tips. So maybe we're not even at this point trying to sell them the big beautiful tax plan. So let's just say we're trying to educate our clients, or maybe get new clients that are in that vertical. So one option is I segment my clients. I create a 3 email series through Max. I then set it to go every 7 days. I could create a white paper that goes into more detail. I could link to a blog article, or I could also have a social media campaign that then comes back to this blog article or shares different information. So when you're doing this for our clients, or at least training our clients, I'm going to step back and say, okay, to talk to your AI tool and say, my goal is to create a complete campaign around this particular topic. Explain the topic, who my audience is, what my goal is. I want to be a thought leader. I want to get them to schedule an appointment with me. I want them to opt in my newsletter, right? These are goals, these are CTAs. And then now we say, what kind of formats do I want to do? So I want to start with 3 emails. Then I want to write a series of 3 blog articles about this, but I want to do like a little bit of a content cluster. So it kind of help just explain this. I don't want to go into huge details. This isn't what this training is about, but I just want to make sure people understand how to create a large amount of content in minutes, moments, whatever, by using the tools that we have around for us today.
Yes, definitely. So the word campaign is going to be huge here. AI understands what a campaign is. You can say things like a multi-channel campaign. That's a really good term. If you're taking any notes from this podcast, that would be a good thing to write down. Multi-channel campaign is something that AI is really going to understand. It's going to help you build out social media posts, blog posts, emails, white papers, pretty much anything you could want. With a lot of systems, you can also now even generate social media images. So let's say you want to post to Facebook, to Instagram along with this. It could generate cohesive branded images that relate back to, your tip section and other segments of this bill that you're wanting to cover down the road. So it is a really good idea to use the word campaign to tell your AI, hey, look, right now, we're crafting 3 emails. I want these emails to connect to a wider campaign that includes downloads, perhaps landing page copy if you have access to landing pages, perhaps social posts, like we said, blog posts, even maybe news articles, depending on what other third-party websites you use. TaxBuzz, for example, Newsbreak are both places you can post more newsworthy pieces of content to draw in a different audience. So just make it clear from the start to your AI that you are crafting a full multi-channel campaign driving people to your firm or to educate them. Let it know your end goal, like Lee mentioned. That's important. And make sure to tell it to include proper CTAs with everything that it writes. That's going to be critical in getting people to convert in whatever way you want them to. Whether you want them to download a white paper, or you want them to sign up for your email newsletter, or you want them to book a call with you, you need to make sure to have those CTAs in place, or you're going to do a lot of work for probably very little return. So we want to make sure that we are getting the correct CTAs in every single piece of content that we're publishing.
Right. So let's give a couple examples. I had created a few before. And what I was saying is we gave you the framework, the context, the audience, the CTA, the goal, right? So here's an example. I want to write a persuasive email for W-2 families with kids about the one big beautiful bill, how it raises the child tax credit and creates Trump accounts, right? So in this email, I now want to write about those 2 topics. The goal is to get them to book a $349 planning session, include a subject line preview, email preview text, and a CTA. That would be a great prompt to get that type of segmented messaging out to your clients. So if I was now writing a blog, create a 500-word blog post for small business owners explaining the new QBI minimum deduction and why now is the time to book a strategy appointment. I'm just giving examples. A social prompts, create a 5-slide Instagram carousel that explains the senior deduction for the one big beautiful bill. Each slide should be simple, bold, and drive traffic to book a session. Write a landing page for the big beautiful tax planning appointment, right? That's my offer. Explain what's included, who's it for, what my pricing is going to be, and what my FAQs are going to be. I'm just giving another example. If you're doing a webinar, generate a 20-minute webinar script covering the top 5 changes in the one big beautiful bill. It is a mouthful every time I have to say it. I still just call it whatever. And and then how they will affect families, small businesses, retirees, include an upsell and a CTA at the end. So those are just some real quick examples. I just wanted to kind of review what we gave you before, and I think you're pretty set here. So if you utilize and follow this, you're going to do really, really well. So now we've told you how to create the content. Let's talk about some of the big issues in the Big Beautiful Act and the headlines that you should be talking about, right? So individual tax rates stay low. They were going to go back up. If I was looking for a topic to talk about, why your 2026 tax bill might not jump after all, that would be something that's a little bit of a teaser. It would generate interest. This could be a campaign that you create. And we talked a little bit about clusters, but let's say that is your top level theme, that tax law or tax liability was going up if nothing happened here, right? So since they did extend a lot and added new stuff, most likely most people's tax bills are going down. If you're an endowment, no. If you're a gambler, no. If you're an EV person, I'm right there. I own 2 EVs. My daughter's we were going to get her a little Tesla, and we're like, oh my God, 9:30 is the deadline. So we're making decisions. Are we buying this car ahead of time, doing the math? So there's a lot of planning around that. But how can you now create a theme and a complete campaign around that topic?
So there are a lot of ways to go. So like you said, Lee, we want to create a full campaign here. So one thing to do, you were just explaining it, is to appeal to parents. This is something that's going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect families. This is something that's going to affect literally everyone for the most part, like you were alluding to. So I think no matter who your target audience is, there is a world here in which you can reach people. First of all, you need to know your audience. That's kind of a given, but I think it's worth saying. You need to know exactly who you're speaking to. Explain that to your AI. Tell them we want to create a prompt for, dual income families living in middle America and how this is going to affect them. That's going to be a lot different than targeting, say, tech workers who own a startup in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of different types of people this is going to affect. So knowing who your audience is, whether it's a family who owns a farm in Nebraska or someone who, is working for Microsoft in Seattle, is going to affect a lot of what you do with this particular campaign. Once you have that established with your AI, you're also going to want to focus on what channels you're going to use. I think this goes back a little bit, Lee, to the generational marketing series that we did, because you're not going to want to approach everyone the same way. For instance, a blog post included in a newsletter is going to be a really good way to reach Gen X, to reach baby boomers who might be planning for things like buying teenage children vehicles. How is that credit going to potentially affect them? If you're targeting younger people, maybe millennials, Gen Z, who are just starting to kind of earn relatively major income, who this is going to affect, you might want to be doing a lot of Instagram posting. You might want to be doing things like offering an online chat or a virtual meeting where you can explain to them exactly how you can help them and the value you can provide with this new law and these tax brackets. So knowing your audience, understanding how to use the AI to craft a campaign that's going to resonate with that audience on the platforms that they are using, I think is critical to this particular part of the bill, because it is so far reaching and you don't want to put out generic content. You want to create content that is designed for your audience.
Yeah, so what I was getting at is I was creating a theme around, so the theme of my campaign, and what Rebekah is saying is now you can kind of fine tune that to each part of your target audience. So
Yes.
I was saying one of the themes is why your 2026 tax bill might not jump after all. So we have that as like the high level talking point. So I want to talk about this like almost like a political campaign. So if that is your underlying messaging, how do you now integrate that into all the material throughout the campaign? So in social, so what we're trying to do is basically act as an ad agency for you and create something that isn't scatterbrained all over the place. And I'm just giving an example of maybe that's how I would set this up. But how do you make it so that where the way you're communicating to everyone is kind of following in this like set parameters of this is my messaging and I want to create all my content around this messaging.
I love the political campaign analogy because I think it's perfect here. We talk a lot on this podcast about how with political campaigns, there's often 2 or 3 talking points, and those are hammered home through every piece of collateral, every commercial, every handout, every flyer that arrives at your house. That's a really good way to approach this. Have a few talking points where the language is carried through everything that you're publishing, everything that you're posting, kind of brand it so that you become the firm that's doing X or offering X. Make sure that you're using cohesive, consistent, branded language throughout everything that you're putting out. So you do want to approach this like you are creating a cohesive campaign. You don't want to just put one piece of content out on social media and then publish a blog that either says something different or is written in a completely different tone. It's very important to have everything sound cohesive, make sense, drive home the same points, whatever those may be. In this case, with your 2026 tax bill, you might want to focus on the tax bracket changes, or you might want to focus on particular credits, the child tax credit. Those sorts of things could become kind of your talking point, your signature, if you will. You want signature points that nobody else is necessarily hammering home in the same way.
Yeah, and this is effective because one, it also feeds signals to the search engines and AI search, for example, that you are the expert in a specific area. So that's what I was just trying to communicate. We'll move on. So individual tax rates stay low. That is obviously a theme. Standard deduction gets a big new bump. That is obviously an area that you can focus on. Senior tax deductions. You have a whole audience of boomer clients under 75K. There's a lot of different ways that you can communicate this with them. And these are things that are really going to matter to them, right? Child tax credit, Trump accounts, how they work, maybe compare a 529 plan versus a Trump account. What's the smart play? Those are ways that I would do. You could do a family focused webinar on that as well. You could generate a ton of new prospects from that. Think about it. I guarantee you most accountants and tax pros are not doing this. You can have a tool like Max or ChatGPT create the webinar for you, the scripting for you, come up with that 529 versus Trump account. This could open your web for the new clients like you have never seen before by being very focused and standing out. The QBI deduction boosts, target gig workers, LLC freelancers, freelancer tax fix, how to claim your guaranteed $400 deduction. There's ways to do that. The whole car loan. I've seen a lot on Twitter or X right now of even accountants like, well, I own a Honda and I have a 2% interest rate and I only own $18,000. So this really doesn't affect me. Well, interest rates aren't 2.9% right now. This is the way accountants think, and it always just makes me laugh. I'm like, this is pretty valuable to a lot of people who are paying, if you buy a car now and assembled in the US, I know there's all kinds of stuff behind it. But think contractors, real estate, trade workers. You can deduct that truck again and the interest on the loan. There's a lot of ways to play this, and even some bonus depreciation perhaps. So I'm just trying to give you again some ideas here. Charitable and adoption, the SALT changes. These are all good things to talk about. These are feel good things, right? You can use them in all sorts of areas, social posts. I think you can get a lot of sharing from that. But I think these are all basically some really good elements. So I had mentioned gamblers. I had mentioned there's some of the higher end things. If you have different niches that you're going after, I would create all kinds of content around it. Do a podcast on it. Get yourself out there. This is the biggest opportunity for you to drive revenue, off-season and/or advisory revenue than you've ever had, right? This is a big deal. And the great thing about it, again, is I don't think they're done. I think there's going to be some things the special interests didn't get. There's things they're going to try to correct that they couldn't correct during the one big beautiful bill. So I think you're going to see some more changes, inadvertent things that happen. And there's some carve outs. I think there's some like Alaska carve out that is bizarre as bizarre gets, but I think that's how they bought that last vote. Crazy politics. I'm telling you, I shake my head. I'm a libertarian. I don't like government, if you can't tell. I like little government, but the amount of nonsense that goes into this is just crazy. But anyways, the opportunity for you is to utilize it both as a thought leader and as a revenue driver. So let's kind of tie this all together again. What would I do Even if I don't have advisory level services for high-end clients, I have what I'm going to call middle upper income. Do the big beautiful tax plan appointment. Brand it around that. Make it affordable. Think about it. If you got 100 clients paying, spending $750 with you, that's a big jump in your income for this fall, and it's really beneficial. Make sure that you have an online booking link everywhere. If you make this a product, make it easy, a buy now link hooked up to Stripe or whatever tool you're using, included on your newsletter, included in your social posts, included in your email signature. Use AI tools to create the content. We showed you how to do that. Segment, run campaigns for different audiences, and have the content for families be different than for seniors versus freelancers versus your business owners. Really, really important. I like to use scarcity. If you're doing a webinar, limit the amount of people that can get them, or maybe limit the amount of appointments that you do at certain price levels. Hey, I only have 10 spots open this month. So I only have so much capacity, right? So scarcity will get higher conversions as well. When you're talking to clients afterwards, hey, this was just a sample of what my advisory services look like. This is an upsell opportunity for you, okay? And this enables you not just to be a once a year compliance partner. This enables you to have more quarterly check-ins, see what's going on in the family. Again, dual incomes. You have all sorts of things specifically with boomers, retiring, Gen X, inheritance, all kinds of crazy stuff is going on. So there's a lot of opportunities here with the big bill. 100% absorb the options. Utilize trusted AI tools like Max to create content for you. Get out there and go to these tax update seminars that are coming out now. Do not wait till December. I know a bunch of people who are talking on X is like, yeah, this is going to be crazy how much we're going to learn in December. I'm like, oh my God, how many things and decisions need to be made now that if you wait till December, it's like, how are you servicing your client? You're not. So huge opportunity here. I hope we've explained this from a process point of view, some targeted audiences, how do you get some ROI off of it. If you're doing higher level advisory, obviously you got to be a gold mine right now. All your high-end clients want to talk about it specifically because, again, there's some sunsetting rules. There's a lot of ways to massage this. I have heard all sorts of entities that people are creating and employing children and finding ways to get the salt for multiple people, it's crazy what people are doing. Be very careful, make sure you follow the law and do things that are correct. But that is it. That is our update of the growth minded accountant on the big, beautiful tax plan. Rebekah, what did you want to add?
I have one more thing I want to say. So this is from a marketing standpoint. This is for all of my clients who I talk to all the time who are afraid to try new things. This is the perfect opportunity to try all of those channels that you have not tried before. This is a search gold mine. Everybody is searching for this. Everybody wants to know what's going on. You have a chance here to make a viral TikTok. If you've never made a TikTok video before, go make one. If you've never made a reel before, go make one. It doesn't have to be polished. Talk into your phone, explain something of interest to your target audience. You have a chance here to do something that, really it's one of the biggest opportunities, I think, online that tax and accounting professionals have ever had. So you have a chance to start establishing some authority for yourself in new places. And this is a great time to jump in because you've got pre-built content. You've got content for weeks, months, maybe even the next year, all coming out of this bill. So I just want to encourage people to take this and run with it. And don't be afraid to try new things, try new platforms, jump into places you've never used before, because this is a great opportunity to do it because you've just got a wealth of content that you can start cycling through and maybe start establishing yourself in some new places, build some more authority, send those signals back to Google and generative search. So it's just a great opportunity. And I want people to really kind of take it by the horns and run with it.
You're going to love it. This is the growth-minded moment. I'm going to remind everyone, you do not need to be political.
No.
You just need to be practical, okay? And you don't want to wait until your clients start asking questions or they start making decisions off of that Reddit thread that they saw. Be the first voice in their inbox. You are their expert. They trust you. They're going to refer you more. They're going to use you more, right? So definitely, and utilize AI tools, right? Let Washington write the laws. You write the story that grows your firm. I'm hoping this has been a helpful update. We'll look forward to seeing you in our next episode of the Growth Minded Accountant. If you have any questions about what we've talked about today, obviously accountingworkspro.com is our platform that has tools that is doing everything we just talked about. I did a Tactical Tuesday update yesterday on how you can utilize our Max voice tools to create podcasts about the big, beautiful bill. Two-way podcast, AI generated podcast, or even scripts for you to do your own podcast. We have already trained Max on the bill. We're adding updates all the time on different tax planning strategies. So it's going to get smarter and smarter. So until next time, we hope you are enjoying your summer. Stay safe out there, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you again.